Hello everyone, welcome to Awkward Author. My name is Alyssa Grasso and this is my weekly vlog and podcast about my sometimes awkward, always awesome author life. And what's in store today, just a quick update on life and writing and a little bit of talk about plagiarism. But first up, still working on getting settled into the new place. I am definitely a little more settled than when I talked to you last week. Still not fully settled. There's a bicycle behind me in my office, which isn't going to be staying there, but it happens to be there right now. And still working on getting unpacked, getting settled, getting everything, switched over, turned on, all that good stuff. It's getting there. I'm not quite done yet, but little by little I am making progress and things are going very smoothly, so I'm very happy. And with how things are going, it's a lot of work moving, guys. It is, and it takes its toll. And certainly my writing progress has suffered with moving, because I haven't had free time. I haven't had as much time because I've been scrambling to get all these things done, and so soon I hope to be settled into a routine, and it'll be the new normal, and I will be able to have regular writing time. But as it is at the moment, there has not been a whole lot of writing going on. And I think I will be definitely happier and, just in a better place when I can, get back into my writing routine. I did very small amount of writing this week. As far as my progress on my current manuscript, I think I'm at around 70,000 words. I had gone back and deleted stuff, and now I'm, redoing that, rewriting it. So I think I'm around 70,000 words. This is what I'm working on. As I've said in the past, it's the first book in a 3-book series, a planned 3-book series. So this is the first book. I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll be done by the end of February. The end of February is 2 days away from when I'm filming this, so I don't think I'm going to be done by the end of February, guys. But I'm close. I really do feel close. I have everything, outlined out, and I'm working on I don't know if I want to call it A story, B story. I'm working on the character who's going to be in all 3 books, the cop, the police detective. So I'm working on his chapters, and I have a pretty good idea of how things are going to go, but I have to actually write the words now. And of course, when you are, writing things yourself, it certainly takes a lot longer than when you are stealing work from other authors. If you have been on social media at all in the past week or so, you have likely seen, writers talking about the latest controversy to hit the writing and publishing world. And without getting into all the details, the hashtag, if you want to look it up and, find all the stories, is copypastechris. And, if you do that, you can get all the sordid details. But in a nutshell, what it was is an author who is a self-published author, and I believe this was all through Kindle, like it is, and there's Kindle Unlimited type of things. Man, Kindle Unlimited does create some monsters, doesn't it? Anyway, this is someone who had stolen works from a bunch of different authors. I don't think it was any single one author, but several authors that are well known, and certainly fans recognized those authors' works, and that's how all this came about. How the truth came out. And the initial thing was that this author blamed a ghostwriter that she had hired, and I think it's since come out that it wasn't a ghostwriter. It was she did this herself. So very shady and fishy, and I don't want to say plagiarism has been going on for a long time, so it's not a result of the times that we live in, but sometimes I think that might contribute to it. And by that, I mean, how can I put it? Like, there is a certain expectation, especially in the romance field, and this is where this is coming out, I think. So many things come out of the romance field, but there's so many romance books out there and so many romance books published. That's part of the thing. And the other thing is that there's an expectation for authors to produce work very, very quickly and in large volumes. And, it's not easy to do. You can write fast, but there's a limit to how fast you can write. And one of the things I just saw today was, an author pointing out that she's been told by fans that, if an author's writing full time, they should be able to get out 2 to 3 books a month, no problem. And, it's like, what? No, that's not realistic at all. But, fans seem to be under that impression. I mean, it doesn't take long to read a book, but it takes a little bit longer to write one. And, so 2 to 3 books a month, an author working full time, I mean, that's superhuman, guys. That's not really a realistic thing at all. And, there are authors that are producing books in great quantity, and a lot of time they are not, doing that themselves. They are working with other writers, either, named writers, or they're using the services of ghostwriters. And whether or not, however you feel about, ghostwriting, that's a legitimate thing to do. Copying and pasting, like our Copy Paste Chris story, taking the work of other authors and, publishing it as your own is obviously not okay and is wrong on all levels. So, don't do that. With the way self-publishing is and this, this need to put out a great quantity of stuff, I guess there are some authors maybe who feel pressured to try to get stuff out, but you can only do what you can do. And, if you don't have the money to hire a ghostwriter or don't believe in that, then you're going to work on the stuff yourself, and it's going to take time to put it out there. And, you can only go as fast as you're able to go. And that's kind of what you're going to, that's your limit. And, you can write faster, but you're not going to be able to do 2 to 3 books a month. I'm sorry. That's just not realistic. And this doesn't mean like what I'm doing where I'm, writing these books and going to get them all published at once. This means this is someone who feels that authors can do 2 to 3 books steadily each month, and that's not, no. But yeah, as a result of this story coming out, I know Nora Roberts published a blog post talking about her experience with getting plagiarized pretty early on in her writing career. And in that case, this was, the author that plagiarized her was somebody who was traditionally published. This was not, a self-published thing. They were traditionally published. And in that case, it came to light. She tried to handle it quietly, going to the author because she knew this writer. The writing community was small enough that, she knew this author. It was a name author, I guess. And the author apologized profusely, and it was a one-time thing, and I don't know, she felt awful about it, that sort of thing. And then it came to light that there was another book, and she had stolen Nora Roberts' words in that book as well. So it's so that was that was the end of that. But it's just, I guess I don't really understand plagiarism. Not that I don't understand what it is. It's hard for me to get inside the head of somebody who wants to do that, because to me, I want to write. That's something I want to do. So I wouldn't even hire a ghostwriter, because it's not that I want someone else to write my books. I want to write the books. That is something I enjoy doing, and that's why I'm in this business. And yeah, I guess I can't really get behind that motivation of wanting to write so badly that you would steal, wanting to publish so badly, I guess, that you would steal someone else's work, because it's not about wanting to write. If you want to write, you write. You wouldn't steal someone else's work. And one thing that I've come across, when you do I've done talks at libraries or book festivals or something that a lot of new writers, aspiring writers, are actually very concerned about is about their work getting stolen. There's a big fear of that, which I don't think that's really a realistic fear. Even with all this plagiarism stuff coming out, I think the likelihood of that happening is very small. And, there's a lot of people who are just worried about copywriting things and getting things, secure and stuff like that. And that's fine if you want to do that, but I would not worry about that. And in this case, as in Nora Roberts' case, it was stuff that was published. Like, it wasn't, it was very well copyrighted because it had already been published. These are published books, like well-known books. And, somebody was just taking the material from those books and publishing it as their own. They were taking stuff from aspiring writers, which, because to them that wasn't, what they wanted. They wanted, genuine best-selling stuff, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird way of going about things, I guess. But all of this reminds me of the time that I got accused of plagiarism. Now, this is not with my fiction. This is something that goes back to, before I was a published novelist, back when I worked in journalism, and I worked for a small newspaper publisher. So, to kind of set the scene here, this is a very small company, and we had, let me think. We had a number of products that we published. 4 of them were like regular newspapers. And by regular newspapers, I mean these were like weekly community papers that came out. And I'm sure you probably have some of these papers in your area. I mean, it would be local news, school board meetings and, township meetings and, anything that affected people on a very local level. So those were our newspaper products. And then we had a publication that I was actually the editor of that was more of like a tourist product. It was a newspaper in that it was printed on, newsprint, and it came out monthly pretty much. But it was not news. Like, it had the word news in the title of it, but it wasn't actually a newspaper. It was kind of like done sort of a funny, jokey kind of way, but aimed at tourists. And, the news stories were all about, the people that advertised with us, the different attractions and stores and restaurants and stuff that advertised in the paper. So that's how that worked. And I was the editor of that, but then I also wrote for the other publications, and we also did some other stuff. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the news stuff. So we covered, I don't want to say a huge area, but we covered a pretty wide area, and I happened to live at the one end of our area where our one paper covered. And so, on a regular basis, I covered the meetings that were near me. So I did my township's meeting, an adjacent township, sometimes the one borough that was there, and then I did my local school board meetings. And so I went to meetings, well, they weren't held. I went every week to meetings. They weren't the same meetings every week. How's that? Because they're usually like every other week or something like that they met. Anyway, so I covered those meetings regularly and wrote, stories for the one newspaper. So we had another newspaper that covered the other end of the opposite end from where I lived, I'll say. So I didn't usually cover those meetings out there or write any articles for that paper because, the people that lived out there handled that, like my boss and other people. So as it happened, something was going on that my boss couldn't cover the meeting for the one local school district that she normally did. And so she asked me to do it that night and, so that I could write a story on it. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Now, what was interesting to me, this has nothing to do with the plagiarism part, but it was just an eye-opening experience in that, so, I did my school board meetings regularly, and I lived in an area that certainly wasn't rich. We certainly were not an area where you would say that we had money, not in the slightest, but our taxes were crazy high, and it's a complicated situation. This was in the Poconos, this was in the early 2000s, and if you're familiar with that area and the geography and the, what happened, post 9/11 especially, there was a huge influx of people like me from New Jersey and New York. Some of it related to, maybe people wanted to, get out of, a city that had just been attacked by terrorists, but also in more cases, it was people that were looking to live cheaper because it's very expensive to live in New Jersey and New York City, as you probably know, and it's a lot cheaper to live in the Poconos. So there's this huge influx of people, and a lot of them had kids, and then there weren't enough room in the schools, so all these schools had to be built. So our school taxes were crazy high. Anyway, going to our local school board meetings, it was, they had this beautiful, meeting room where they met. It was like devoted just to meetings. Each of the school board members had their own laptop. They had this like big, display, like a electronic, projector thing type thing. It was a pretty fancy place, sound system, the whole thing. Very, very nice high-end sort of thing. And so when I went to this other school district, the other end of things, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like the complete opposite. Like here I was, the meeting was held in the school library. I think it was the high school. And like we were crammed in there, like there wasn't really enough space. There was, they didn't even have like a meeting table. It's just like a bunch of desks, like, school, the desks that you have in like a classroom, all kind of put together. There was no computers in sight, no electronic, projector thing. The books on the school, the library shelves, like there wasn't a book newer than like 10 years old. It was like, whoa, like what a difference, It was just, that was kind of like an eye-opening experience for me. Well, the other thing that was a difference at this particular meeting was that it was pretty insane. Like normally meetings are pretty boring, I gotta say. I used to go to the school board meetings. They used to run long, some of them, and it would just be boring. And I'd be like fighting to stay awake, really. I mean, I'd have notes where I was like falling asleep because it was just like, it was just boring. It was just boring stuff. It wasn't even like controversial or anything. It was just, endless, figures and numbers and, how many buses they were going to need this year and stuff like that. Anyway, it really wasn't an exciting thing. Once in a while, something interesting would happen, but it was nothing like this meeting that I happened to go to because what had happened was one of the school board members, without telling anyone else on the board or the school administration, had that previous week apparently called the police and instructed the police to do a surprise locker check, like to, search for drugs and contraband or whatever. And so nobody at the school or nobody else on the school board had been notified about this. And I'm just looking at a cat wandering through the woods. Okay, sorry, I got distracted there. So nobody else on the school board knew about this, or the administration knew about this. It was like a big thing. And basically at this meeting is, when the truth came out and it, led to this big shouting match. No blows were exchanged, but it was close. It was close. It was a pretty intense meeting. And so I remember like coming in the next day and like saying to my boss, like, are those meetings always so crazy? She's like, no. Like, what are you talking about? They're boring. And so I had to tell her the whole story. So yeah, she missed a good one there. Anyway, I wrote up my story, and this was a weekly paper, so, it got published in whatever the next edition was. And, okay, so this is a small company I worked for, and it's hard to explain, but it was actually my boss's mom who was like, I don't know what her title was, publisher or something. Anyway, she also sort of worked there, kind of, I don't know, it was kind of a weird situation. Anyway, so when our paper came out, she didn't edit things or anything like that. She usually just saw things once they were published. So she's reading through, the latest edition of the paper with my, my crazy school board story in it. And of course I didn't normally write those stories because I normally handled, the other ones. Anyway, so she's like, oh, you didn't go to this meeting, right? And, of course my name's on the story. And I'm like, yeah, no, I did. I covered it, there was something that came up and I had to fill in and cover. And she said something, I forget what she said after that, like some kind of random comment, which like I wasn't picking up what the heck she was like implying. And she says like, yeah, it's very similar to the story that appeared in it was like one of the local dailies, and it was a daily that I wouldn't have read because I lived on that side. This was on the other side. And I was like, well, the reporter was at the same meeting, so it probably would be similar because, if it wasn't similar, it would be kind of suspicious. But, and she's like, very similar. And she said this in like a very accusing way. And I was like, oh, like she's accusing me of like plagiarizing this, this story from the other paper. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know what I said. I was like, well, I didn't even see that story. I don't know what I didn't know like what to like even say. It was just like I was just very offended, I guess. And I mean, anytime you're wrongly accused of something, I think it's a bad situation. But that to me, really bothered me. It was one of those things that really like rubbed me the wrong way, because it's just like, I would never do that. Like, I would never, try to pass someone else's, story, whether it's like a journalism thing or, a work of fiction, off as my own. And so to be accused of that was like really really bothered me, I guess. Now, the good news is like nothing ever came of that. I mean, like, I don't even remember what I said, like, oh, well, if you want my notes, I can give you my notes or something like that. But nothing ever came of it. And she was the only one that ever even accused me of that. And it was just weird. It was just like a weird situation. I mean, and I don't know what even authority she would have had. But anyway, it was just it was an unpleasant experience. And hopefully for you, you've never been in a situation like that. And hopefully you've never had somebody that actually plagiarized your work. But yeah, it's very, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of bad things that can happen out there, and maybe plagiarism seems like a very minor kind of crime, but it really bothers me, I guess, for some reason, just because I would never do that, and I don't really understand the motivation for someone to do that. I mean, there was in recent times a few different songs that got, it's not called plagiarism when it's music, whatever it is, copyright infringement or whatever, when they're basically taking chords from one song and using it in another. And I can see that happening like accidentally, like you don't even realize, and then you're playing something or whatever, and then but at some point somebody should realize that, like, before it gets released, and somebody must. I mean, like, these were not, there was one that was like Tom Petty, there was one that was something else, like, so these were big name like songs, these weren't unheard of songs. So yeah, but I could see that happening accidentally. I could even see, like, maybe like a certain turn of phrase or even a character's name or something, like accidentally like using that in your own book. But to actually, this was not, the stuff that happened recently was not accidental stuff. I mean, these were either whole books or whole passages of books. I mean, good luck trying to do that from memory, accidentally, it's not going to happen. So that's definitely a clear-cut case of plagiarism. And I guess I don't really, I don't know, how can I put it? I can't really identify with somebody who's going to go to do that. It's just such a weird thing to me. But don't do that. That's my advice to you. Don't plagiarize someone else. If your work is plagiarized, or if someone accuses you of plagiarism when you clearly have not, that stinks, and hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But that is, I guess, one of the issues that can affect authors, and hopefully it never affects you. So that about sums up this week. I am going to be trying to, get this book done as quickly as I can. Not sure how quickly that's going to be, but I do feel like I am moving along, and when I do have time to actually write, I think I can make some pretty good progress on it. And we'll see. It is going to be a new month, so next week I will have my author income report. I know I say this every month, but it's not going to be too exciting. I don't think I've really got much going on in the way of marketing, so there won't be won't be much spent on marketing, but at the same time, my income isn't going to be anything great. Well, I'll have to see, and I will be sharing that all with you next week. And again, I do put out these videos / podcasts every week. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever you like, and I will catch up with you again next week. I hope you all have a great week. Enjoy life, enjoy writing, enjoy reading, enjoy whatever you're out there doing, and just hope everything is awesome for you. Again, my name is Alyssa Grasso. If you want to know more about me and my books and get a free ebook, you can visit my website at alyssagrasso.com. That's ALISSAGROSSO.com. So until next week, guys, keep it awkward.